Hey everybody, Dave here. Hope you're having an awesome day. So a buddy of mine has a one wheel, and he just got these little kind of Star Wars themed side panel strips for it. And then he has this hub that goes on the one wheel. And it's just great. It's kind of boring, and we were like looking at it and kind of talking like, oh man, it'd be cool if you had like a matching one to go with the little side panels. And I thought, ooh, that might be a fun little project to do. These are kind of expensive. So I was originally thinking I'll just do like a cool little paint job on it, but the more I think about it, I really want to go all out and do like some crazy greeblies on it and do something super cool with it. So I don't know. Let's do it. Okay, so here it is. It's an aftermarket CNR fender. And it's got a really cool texture on it, so I'm hoping that will actually come through in the paint a little bit later on. Just looking at the lines, kind of thinking through how I want to put some greeblies and maybe some polystyrene on here just to make it look a little bit more three-dimensional and cool. So I'm going to do a little light sanding on it. This is really just so the paint will stick to it a little bit better. Little alcohol on a rag, wipe that down. I'm going to put a little piece of polystyrene over this, so I didn't want the polystyrene to sink in. So I'm filling this with that Tamiya putty, just so it's a little bit smoother surface. Because when I did put the polystyrene on there, it did kind of press in a little bit. So here I've got some square polystyrene, and it's pretty thin, so it's really flexible. So I think if I use a little bit of Tamiya thin set glue, I should be able to adhere this fairly easily. What this does, it actually melts the polystyrene into the plastic, and so this held really, really well. And it actually went on pretty easy. I was quite surprised how easy that went on. So went ahead and did that on the other side. Now what I'm doing is I just marked that with lead, so I can kind of find where to trim this piece of polystyrene. So I trimmed it, snapped it, sanded it down a little bit because it didn't quite fit perfectly, but that worked out pretty nice. And now I'm just taking some scrap polystyrene and I'm just making panels. I kind of sketched this out a little bit just to have an idea of where I wanted to go with this, but I kind of was also just winging it as I went. So here I am just putting some glue on there. This is just some CA super glue, and I'll drop that on, line it up, press that down. And that is the start of the paneling. Now I'm just taking some CA glue, and I pre-marked this. I don't know if you can really tell, but there's pencil marks, and I'm just putting little tiny dabs of glue, and then these little sequins that I got at Joann's Fabric on clearance, and they look like pretty cool little rivets. So I'll glue those on there. And now I'm just trimming off that square polystyrene, and I just sliced it at an angle and sanded it down. Got some more scrap polystyrene. This is black polystyrene, but it's essentially the same exact stuff. Gluing that down. Then I started doing some little angular pieces. I just took the polystyrene and cut them at little angles, almost like a picture frame, and then piecing them together. And again, take the Tamiya thin set glue, and the stuff just melts right together. Adding on some additional rivets here. These are some Legos that I sanded down, and I wanted them to look like little buttons. And I just stuck those on with some CA glue and gluing on another panel here. And what I'm doing right now is I'm just kind of looking at the overall fender and gluing down little pieces that feel like they would be right. So this is kind of the finished piece here. I'm going to take this outside and prime it. And there it is, primed up. That is looking pretty cool. I was really unsure of the direction that I was going with this thing, but I feel like this might work. So this is the primer that I used, just a gray Rust-Oleum, and I'm going to cover the entire thing with a silver because I think I want the inner panel to be kind of a metal look. And while the paint was still a little bit wet, I just took my fingernail and scratched it up, and I think that gives it a nice little texture, and I gave it one more coat of silver. And I think the outside corners of the fender I'm going to paint orange because the little strips that he had were like an orange and a blue and a tan. So I went ahead and masked that all off, and I've got a Rust-Oleum just gloss orange and gave that a couple of coats, and that's looking really vibrant and super cool. I really like this. So this is just a little Christmas Easter egg, peeling off some masking tape, and there we got kind of the first part of our paint job. Now, these little square polystyrene tubings, I thought that might be my nice little touch of blue. So I hit those buttons with some red and some green, hit other little buttons, kind of making it look like the panels are turning on and off. And you can see I got some little red buttons, some green buttons. Now this piece here, I thought I need to paint this a cool color. So I did that, and I was like, ugh, that looks ugly. And then I tried a flesh color, ugh, even worse. So sometimes the paint schemes don't always work how you're thinking they're going to be, so I'm not loving this. So I just got a rag and I scrubbed all this off, and I went ahead and masked it and spray painted the same color orange just to tie it all in. In the end, I think that worked out a whole lot better. I painted a couple of the other panels orange, so I've got some metal panels, some orange panels, and I think it gives a nice variation on the project. Then I just took this silver chrome pen and just spent a ton of time nicking and scuffing and scratching. So I'm digging through all of my decals. I've got like a pretty nice collection of them. And I just started sticking them in random places on the fender, thinking it gives it a little bit more interest. And then I used my vinyl cutter and I made this N8 1W. And I'll tell you what that is at the very end. And then I'm just taking some blue paint and stippling it around, being careful not to brush it really rough, and then I just peeled this off, and man, that looks good. I love it. So that's kind of a fun little feature. This is kind of funny. I was trying to put like a little like caution sign thing. I thought that'd be fun, so I put down just a cheap craft white paint, and then this yellow, and started dabbing that on. But then after it dried, I tried peeling it off, and the whole thing came off. So I'm not sure if I should have peeled it off sooner. I'm not sure what happened there, because everything else peeled off fine, but snuck in a little 1M robots, a little Easter egg there. So I think that turned out pretty nice. And then I just took a chrome pen, that same chrome pen, and did some scuffing and nicking on all of the artwork that I have on there, and I think it turned out really cool. And just like those little tiny effects make things so simple. This little sand shark was like a model tank decal. I've got this brown kiwi shoe polish. I kind of squeeze it into that little container there, and I am just smothering the entire thing. Now this always is like a super scary part, but I have a couple coats of clear coat on this already, so I can put this on, wipe it down, and it really leaves super cool texture and grunge in certain areas. And then I can take a wet sponge and scrub that down if I get a little too much on there. So I did take a little bit of that off, and then kind of messing around with some different rusts and just simple touches here. And I think we're gonna wrap this one up, and let's see what he thinks. I hope he likes it.
All right, so I'm not gonna lie, there were multiple times during this build that I thought, I have no clue if this is gonna work out, and I was super nervous if he was gonna hate it, because these aren't cheap, and I was like, ugh. I did show him, and he really likes it, so that makes me happy. I think it turned out pretty great. I got my 1M Robots logo on there as a little Easter egg. And then something else that's kind of fun, this N8 1W, his name is Nathan, so I did Nate's one wheel. So I don't know, it's kind of silly, but anyways, that's it. He's actually gonna bring it over, and we're gonna take some little video of it on the one wheel. So we'll do some turnaround shots of this, and as always, it's a great day to be a toy nerd. Even when it's not necessarily a toy. Well, I guess it's an expensive toy. Have a good one.